welcome to another episode. I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm Gabe Shenhar.
And I'm John Lincove.
And today we're going to be talking about our first impressions of the Hyundai Ioniq 6, which is an all-new electric sedan from Hyundai. But before we get going, we have two elephants in the room we need to address. First, we have a new microphone setup that we're hoping is really going to make the sound quality a lot better, especially for those people that are just listening. And so let us know what you think. And the second is apparently John Lincove and I go to the same tailor because we have nearly identical checked shirts on.
Yes.
So our producer obviously does not dress us. We do this on our own.
Chess King, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get the memo on that.
No. So Gabe's still rocking the turtleneck, which we love.
It's warm outside.
Yeah.
Come on.
So today we're going to be talking about our first impressions based on two pre-production models that we rented from Hyundai. And this is in advance of buying an all-wheel drive version for our test program, correct, Gabe? That's
Correct.
what we're getting, all-wheel drive?
You
okay.
bet.
So we rented an Ioniq 6 SEL rear-wheel drive with a long-range battery with a price of $47,700 and a limited all-wheel drive with a long-range battery for $56,100. So, Gabe, Ioniq 6, all new. Tell us what we need to know kind of mechanically, platform-wise that's, going on with this car, especially because it's somewhat related to the Ioniq 5, correct?
Yeah, so it's the fourth car based on that same dedicated electric platform that Hyundai Kia uses on the heels of the Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6, the Genesis GV60. And so here is a sedan body style and priced pretty much in line with the Ioniq 5, ranging from, pretty much hovering around $50,000 and aimed right smack at the Tesla Model 3. So it gives people a choice between, a sedan body style and the Ioniq 5, which is kind of an SUV-ish kind of thing. Range is between 360 for the simplest rear-wheel drive, least expensive model on 18-inch wheels, and to 270 for more equipped models with the 20-inch tires like the SEL and the Limited.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that base SE rear-wheel drive with the standard battery only has 149 horsepower, which seems, really small by today's standards, though we haven't driven that, so we don't really know what that's going to feel like.
Right.
Whereas their rear drive models with the larger battery have 225 horsepower, and that's one of the cars that we're going to talk about today was rear drive with 225. And then the all-wheel drive models with the long-range battery having two electric motors produce 320 horsepower. So kind of interesting. So John, Gabe talked a little bit about the Model 3. And that maybe that was the car that Hyundai truly was targeting with this. So, after driving these two, rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, where do you think it stacks up against the Model 3? And what is it like to drive? Talking like, the powertrain, ride and handling, those kinds of things.
I think that it benefits significantly from just longer development. The Model 3 is an old model now, even with any running changes. And Model 3 is stiff. It's not super comfortable. It's got drawbacks with the low rear seat, let alone the controls from what we talk about generally with Teslas. It feels a lot like a more conventional looking, and even though it, like I'll tell you, it looks like a suppository. These Hyundai Ioniq 6s, they're very, very odd looking in their swoopiness. They have like a Minority Report type of look to the outside, but we get inside and it's a roomy vehicle, comfortable for 5 people. If you're used to, and I know a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers may not have been into an EV, any EV yet, let alone maybe the Hyundai Kia Genesis ones, but it's very familiar if you've been in any of those or even any Hyundai products.
You mean interior-wise?
Interior-wise, yeah. So the look and feel, is kind of, is what you're seeing from them now. So it's nothing wacky. It's not the same as a Kia Sorento, but it certainly is an evolution of that. Comfort-wise, no problems. Visibility-wise, I didn't really have any issues with that. I don't tend to drive EVs with the max acceleration. They all have really great, because I'm looking more to how they are livability with range and such. Yes, they all have the neck snapping acceleration for the most part, and once you've done that, it's kind of like, okay, my opinion. But still, quick for passing, easy to drive. On a adaptive cruise control, easy to just live with on a daily basis. Still, again, odd looking vehicle, but I was able to carry the kids. I can't get away from the looks. I can't get away from the looks.
I was going to save the styling for later, but let's jump into it right now, and then we'll come, since you keep bringing it up. I mean, Gabe, what do you think of the styling? Again, folks, this is not something we certainly don't score styling, but look, we're humans. We can see with our eyes. So,
well, it looks weird enough that people were bringing up, like, what is that?
You think it looks weird. Gabe, what do you think about the styling?
It's definitely distinct and different and eye-catching. I mean, the car is about the size of a Sonata, but it has a much longer wheelbase, shorter overhangs, which increases the interior room, of course. And I mean, we talked about that jelly bean shape that was really in the 90s.
Right.
And that's why this car reminds me of the Infiniti J30,
yes.
if you remember that car.
Yes.
So, yeah. But
that's funny.
I think, I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, of course, but definitely it looks different and eye-catching, and it's a conversation piece.
Yeah. I think that's part of it, John, for me, is that, like, I'm not going to tell you it's gorgeous or anything like that, but at least it's kind of different than other vehicles out there, and whether it's ugly, I personally don't think it is ugly, but it does have that kind of, saggy rear end styling that, the J30 had, but it's kind of funny to bring something sort of back from the 90s, but
and the cab forward as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because I was thinking Dodge Intrepid almost in that type of era.
Yeah. Except this has the saggier lower trunk. So, Gabe, I mean, the rear drive has less power. All-wheel drive, has, I guess, more traction, you could say. Are people going to be surprised when they get in the rear drive with, let's call it, only 225 horsepower, that it's not going to have the neck snapping acceleration that, those who are familiar with EVs might be like, okay, it's okay, but...
It's unlikely because, as we know, the power delivery of an electric vehicle is so immediate, so linear, so smooth, feels so effortless. So it really is kind of a secondary point almost if it has 280 horsepower or 350 horsepower. I mean, it's all about the torque, which comes immediately.
Right.
I mean, driving this Ioniq 6, I was quite surprised. I mean, the ride is beautiful. I mean, it's very plush. I mean, I think it outrides some luxury cars, and handling is pretty responsive. And I mean, one thing that the interior is roomy, as John mentioned, and the controls are pretty familiar, in terms of infotainment and everything. It's very much the current Hyundai playbook. Although another throwback to the 90s, if you notice the window switches, they are on the center console instead of on the door.
Yeah, well, we'll get to controls in a second. I just wanted to finish up kind of ride and handling. So I think they both handle pretty nicely. The rear drive one I took on our track, and when you're out on the road, if you stab the throttle really hard, exit and turn, you can feel the rear want to kind of step out a little bit in the rear drive one especially, but it's fine. But when I turned it all off on the track, it's such a strange sensation to be sliding an electric car around versus, a regular, I put it, on our skid pad, because it's not making, other than the tire squealing, it's not making any sound.
Sure,
it's just, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's not like second gear and some revs.
It's just different. I mean, there's still smoke and all that kind of stuff from the tires, but it's just kind of.
Well, you could get the BMW fake noise package.
Yeah,
maybe,
no, I don't want that. With all that. It's just, it's just an interesting thing to do that, and it is neat that you can do that, and you can, you've got rear wheel drive or all wheel drive. You can choose the other one. So.
I think the normalcy of it is a big thing, where of the driving experience, the Ioniq 6. I mean, you really feel a Model 3. You really feel the road. The harshness. Yeah, okay. Whereas this, you're just it transitions nicely from a conventional vehicle, from a conventional car.
Well, I mean, they've been working on these for a while now, and they're a manufacturer that, I mean, probably puts in a lot more R&D time, right, than Tesla. I mean, Tesla's kind of known for letting the owners be kind of some of the kind of early testers, right? And absolutely. So maybe not everything's worked out in a Tesla the way that Hyundai was going to make sure it was with this, and it looks like they got it pretty close. Yeah,
totally. I mean, they've been investing. I mean, they made themselves leaders in EVs with the 800-volt architecture that allows for quick DC fast charging to the tune of 235 kilowatts. and their regen is regenerative braking.
I actually wanted to bring that up
really
next,
well sorted out. I mean, you can change the level of regen on the fly. That I think that's it's the best in the business. So they're doing it right. I mean, they invested in a dedicated platform, and they're now introducing more and more models on the same platform. Next, after the Ioniq 6, is the also in the Ioniq 7, which is going to be a 3-row SUV, and we saw the EV9, the Kia EV9. So they're really cashing in on that in a very wise kind of way. But let me just touch upon the Model 3 that I think in terms of ease of charging in public places, no one can touch Tesla. And if you if that's really something that's important to you, you're going to probably, in the end, even though the Ioniq 6 drives a lot better and feels much more mature of a product than the Model 3, if you care about the public charging and the seamless Tesla superchargers, you're going to probably put up with a stiffer ride, with the bare bone interiors, with the more noise, with the lousy controls, and
basically,
go for a Model
if you're
3.
going to be traveling, though, right? I mean, that's really the only reason why you would need to worry about that, because hopefully you'll have a way to charge this thing at home, and then it has decently long ranges, so you should be fine for your day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, Gabe raises a great point in that if you're in the winter and you're driving something that has a few hundred, 250 miles of range or something on paper, and you cross the state of Connecticut and you park it and then you drive, you can get into that anxiety where, like, oh my goodness, am I going to, what am I going to have to do to make sure I get home, or start hunting out a weird station?
Right.
Even without thinking about long distance travel, like in a Tesla, where you could just bounce from supercharger to supercharger.
Right. I wanted to just finish up. You guys are bouncing me around here. On the brake regeneration, you touched on it for a second, Gabe. John, I wanted to get your thoughts on it, because we've talked about Hyundai before, Genesis, Kia. They've got this pretty neat way that you can instantly adjust your brake regeneration, which regenerative braking is basically, it slows the car and without using the friction brakes, while sending some energy back to the battery. Mm-hmm. And so it's neat the way they do it. What did you think about that system, and what did you think? Like, for me, for the brakes, I thought they were like a little touchy at low speeds, the actual physical brake pedal, but after that, I thought they were pretty good. What did you think about the regenerative braking, and are you a one-pedal driver? Do you like doing that?
I was going to say, I do like playing with the one-pedal driving aspect.
You want to explain what that is real quick?
So one-pedal driving is basically you're using the throttle and then lifting off for slowing. Right. So you're accelerating with the throttle, you want to slow down for a curve, you want to slow down for traffic or something. You merely are adjusting your angle and the input onto the throttle, and then using the motor's reverse, to slow the vehicle, as well as then send energy back to the battery. I like that in the sense of, it's almost like left foot braking a car,
right.
Your feet are doing that foot is only doing one thing, and it's not moving. I liked it in the Chevy Bolt, for example, the Chevrolet Bolt, where it has the one pedal, just a paddle to slow you. And, and that's kind of cool too. So I like the way you can do this, and I like the on the fly far better than many of the systems where it's, choose a menu and get into there so you could engage it, and then it turns off, such as like Audi Q4 e-tron, for example, that unless you're in dynamic mode, it goes away each time you use it. Like, it's pretty cool. It's pretty slick. And the brakes were fine. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different. It's not dangerous or weird in the sense of, and I'm not saying it's dangerous, but it's very weird in the Mercedes-Benz EVs, where the pedal goes down away from you depending on the mode you're in.
Right.
It's not odd in that respect, and it certainly isn't dangerous. So if they're a touch grabby at first, I think that's a livability. You can eventually get to that, because it's not throwing people forward, and you're not jamming people forward the minute you touch the brake in a parking lot.
Right. So I think you guys already said you found the interior pretty comfortable. I personally, the front seat just doesn't work for me. From the seat back has really good side bolstering, but it's got like this built-in lumbar support that kind of like feels like, especially toward the middle of my back, just kind of poking me. And so that was just a personal issue for me. Most people, thought the seat was pretty comfortable. Rear seat, there's no foot space under the front seats. Like to me, that's a real problem. Yes, it's definitely better than the Model 3. No question about it. But headroom's kind of tight. Yeah. So, and it's kind of like leg support there could be more too, but if they were to raise the seat up, they can't raise the seat up because if it's already a little tight on headroom. So I think it's a good seat. I personally don't think it's a great seat. Like if you think about the Ioniq 5, just as an example, there's definitely more room in the Ioniq 5's back seat.
Yeah,
but you're getting curvier styling this way.
Yeah, it's one thing that's pretty endemic to EVs because the battery is like sandwiched under the floor. That raises the floor, so that means that you have less toe room under the front seats, in terms of which compromises the posture in the rear seat.
Right. So I think that mostly covers it. A few quirky controls. You talked on the window controls. Then there's the side mirror controls are down on the driver's like left dash, which is weird.
But it's almost Toyota-ish where they throw some weird controls somewhere.
It's just for fun. And the climate controls, they're in their own area, but they are touch capacitive, which means that they're not physical buttons, but at least they make like a beeping sound when you press on them, right? So you confirm that you've made your selection, which is kind of nice. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's okay.
It's okay. I still think buttons give you feedback, and capacitive, at least it kind of works when you touch it.
Right.
It doesn't have an odd resistance.
Right.
It's not a double stab or something. So,
all right. So we've talked about the Model 3. We've talked about the Ioniq 5. So let's talk about which one you guys would choose, Gabe, especially between if you were for yourself or suggesting to a friend. Would you more go with the Ioniq 6 or would you go with the Ioniq 5?
There's no third choice here?
I mean, if you want to choose the Model 3 or something else, you can, but I kind of want...
Okay,
he is Monty, so it's like Monty Hall here. What's behind the garage door over there?
There's such a similar car and yet so different in some ways. You know, I mean, they look completely different, the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6.
Okay.
And they might drive pretty similar, but the interior is different. You know.
All right, so let's say I can't have the BMW i4 or
Correct.
the Audi Q4
Nope, can't have
e-tron. Okay, so
Genesis
I think
GV60?
and not the I really like the Genesis GV60 also. That's a dream of a car. But I would tend to go with the Ioniq 5 because I kind of like the angular the angular styling of it and the way it reminds me of an old Lancia.
Yeah, no, you're right, actually.
And
sort of like a Delta S4, actually.
Exactly. So so I kind of that resonates with me, and plus it's a taller vehicle. You know, you don't feel so low slung, so which is kind of a nice feature. But the Ioniq 6 rides more comfortably, I have to say.
Okay, John. Gabe followed the rules for once, so you also can't.
So I can break them. I usually follow the rules, right?
Ioniq 5, yes, John's always a rule follower.
Yes.
Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6 for you?
The 6.
Or a friend.
The 6.
6, okay.
I would take the 6.
Because
it's as oddball as it looks.
Because it's beautiful.
As oddball as it looks. I like the conventional nature of it a little bit. I dislike 100% Hyundai Kia Genesis refusal to put a rear wiper on those hatchback things. Like that just...
And it's becoming an EV thing. It's not even just them anymore.
It's becoming an EV thing, and don't tell me that don't tell me aerodynamics clears a rear window. Okay? I don't care. I don't know if it's a California design studio, a Korean design studio, a Detroit one. In this winter, it has not cleared the rear window at all.
Yeah.
And it's an oversight. And the aerodynamic gains and mileage gains do not offset the fact that you just can't see out the back window.
So get the Ioniq 6 because it doesn't need a rear wiper as much as the Ioniq 5. Is that
or maybe just conventional wisdom is they don't put one on a sedan, so there you are. But that just...
I gotcha. Okay. For me, I'd probably go with between those two, Ioniq 5, because it's a little more practical. You know, there's more rear seat space, and it's a hatchback, so I can throw bikes or whatever in the back. So we have a lot more information on the Ioniq 6 up on our website, consumerreports.org, including a full first drive on it. And of course, stay tuned to consumerreports.org because we will be buying our own Ioniq 6 in the future, as soon as we can, basically. And we'll have our full road test results up there. So please check back for that. And now let's move on to our audience question of the week. Folks, don't forget to send those questions, comments, 30-second video clips to where, John Linkove?
talkingcars@icloud.com.
Nice.
That would be
See?
talkingcars@icloud.com.
Just so you know, that's the exact same way Mike Quincy did it when I asked him to do that. He also said it twice.
Talking cars.
Okay,
at
so
iCloud.com.
he has to one up Mike Quincy. He has to do it 3 times. Okay. So this week we have a question from Ron. And Ron says, I've been shopping for a new car, and while researching my options, I discovered this podcast, which I find very clear and tremendously helpful. Well, we're happy to hear that, Ron. But some of the cars I'm looking at substitute a flat tire repair kit rather than include a spare tire. Is it wise to drive around without a spare? John, should people feel comfortable or uncomfortable without a spare tire in their new car?
That first question, that last question, let's go from the back. That depends on where you're driving, really. I mean, if you have the ability to get, if you have a new car and you have the manufacturer included roadside assistance, and you're in a denser suburban urban area where they're plentiful, great. If you have you have a brand new vehicle and you're out in a much more remote area, you're in northern Vermont, you're out, somewhere in a rural part of western New Jersey, for example, maybe you should be concerned about that.
Because it would take a while.
It would take a while, yes. You just don't know what's available. Right. It never happens at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. It's always 11 p.m. on a Saturday night, You can sometimes pay extra to get a temporary spare thrown in there. That may either take up usable space. For example, we have a Rivian R1S, the SUV.
Yep.
One of the benefits of the whole set of no fuel tank and motors on the wheels and such is that there's a big well in the back where you can have a lot of cargo room, but the spare tire fits in there, and ours has a spare tire, takes up that well, so now you lose that extra cargo room. Sometimes you get the extra stereo, the upgraded stereo system, and that's put in the rear tire well.
The subwoofer,
for example.
So now I gotta have it. I gotta have my bass.
Yeah, that's true. I thought you were gonna put just big speaker box in the back, but anyway, that's fine. Rattle the windows, if you will, in your Ioniq 5. So you're stuck with that. You don't want to really throw a spare tire in the back of the vehicle and drive around with it.
Right.
I know Gabe's gonna get in the run flats, but so many of the times you can't. You get the tire sealant kit, which will take care of things like nails, things like something that pokes through, not a blowout on the sidewall.
Right. Gabe, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, there's basically 3 situations, right?
Yeah. Well, first, we have to acknowledge that changing a tire is not a safe thing. So car manufacturers have gone into either run flat tires or the repair kit or space-saving tires, and carrying a full-size spare is completely something of the past.
Other than pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Some
I mean,
SUVs,
it adds weight, it hurts fuel economy, it takes up a lot of space. So, having a flat tire is really a rare occasion these days. So, I don't think there's any problem. I mean, my family's been driving run flat tires for the past decade, and no problem. Knock
on metal or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
This is.
So I think he shouldn't put too much worry about it. But if you tend to drive on dirt roads or some other rough roads, damaged roads, or far away places from any roadside assistance, you can get an optional spare tire.
Yeah, true. And I do think that, like what you guys both said about the safety aspect, being that the tire sealant kit most likely is going to get you going a lot quicker again, and rather than spending all that time on the side of the road trying to get the lug nuts off the flat tire and then jacking the car up. And then, funny story though, we talk about a rite of passage, right? Like, for a lot of us, when we couldn't wait to turn 16 to get our driver's license, right? Well, sometimes some parents, it also be, before you can drive the car, you got to show me that you can change the tire. This is back in the day when every car had spare tires. Yeah. My best friend growing up, his older brother, his dad said, okay, if you want to drive this car, you got to show me that you can change the tire. And my buddy is just out there dying laughing because his brother says, okay, I'm going to jack the car up. So he's jacking the car up, and he's got the car jacked up, but he hasn't loosened any lug nuts. So now he's trying to figure out how to take the lug. Anyway, you had to be there. But that is something that we will lose. But in the end, for safety, it's probably for the best.
Yeah, and it's look, in the sense of if you have a spare tire, now you have to make sure that you keep it inflated. So you have to check that. The last thing you need is to get all that done and find out you have a flat spare.
Right.
They do over time. If it's underneath the vehicle, you're getting just junk sprayed up on it constantly. So who knows if you could even lower it or get it out of there.
Yep.
We had a guy at Consumer Reports who had an old Ford Taurus wagon, had a spare tire in the back. The thing exploded because he had never, ever checked it. Now, this isn't that it's going to affect everybody like that. But the thing had heated and cooled and heated and cooled and heated and cooled. Whatever the heck happened with it, eventually just blew out one day. There's things that you have to do with that. But like you said, with the lug nuts, you got to make sure that they're able to be loosened.
I think the point is, we're going in a good direction. Even though some of us might be like, we might bemoan where's my spare tire, even my temporary spare tire. This is probably a better thing for most people going down the road. So anyway, thank you for the question, Ron. It was a great question. Don't forget to click on the links in the show notes to learn more about the cars and the topics that we talked about today. Don't forget to send those questions, comments, 30-second video clips to talkingcars@icloud.com. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next week.